Tired of the hype about living the dream? It's time for truth. This is the place for tools, power, and real talk so you can create the life you dream and deserve. Your ultimate life. Subscribe, share, create. You have infinite power. Hello, this is Your Ultimate Life, the podcast I created to help you live a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy by serving and creating with your gifts, your life experience, and all the good stuff that you have inside. This is one of the special Thursday coaching editions. You'll know that already because I've got two guests, which I only do on Thursday, where we talk about the AI and its relationship and development in the context of coaching. We're not talking Skynet and taking over the world here, but just that. And I've got a couple of good guests here. Markel and Lucia Rester. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Hey, Kellan, it's great to be here again. It's great to see you, and Lucia, great to see you as well. It's fun being on a show where we're friends talking about fun topics.
You bet.
Lucia, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kellan. It's really fun, and I'm delighted to be here with one of my favorite persons, Matt, and as well as you. What a fun idea.
All right, cool. So I've set a timer to kind of keep track of where we're at, and let's just kind of get started. So our topic today is about coaching in the context of AI, and I wrote a book about that and all that jazz, but I don't want to, we'll explore that as we go along. I guess the first question I have, both of you do some kinds of coaching. Everyone does it different and in different contexts and so forth, and that's wonderful. My first question's easy. Are you using AI and in the context of your teaching and coaching? And if you are, how? Matt, you can start. Or
Lucia, go ahead.
I use AI every day. And for several hours a day, actually. So it is, I could say I rely on it quite a bit, but I rely on it in a very particular way. And to me, I like to call it kind of that 80-20 rule applied to AI. So I think the bigger issue here is really, as a subject matter expert, we can really use AI and then cross-check it to accelerate what we're doing, our tasks. It has amazing capability in certain ways, but it also still has a lot of weaknesses. And one of them is fallibility. And, over multiple sessions, I'm just saying, generally speaking, you can expect about 80% of it to be somewhat accurate. And I think for me, that's how I use it. I use it as a very faithful 24/7 assistant, but I don't rely on it as the subject matter expert.
Matt, I'll get to you in a sec about how you use it. When you do that, when you say you don't rely on it as the subject matter expert, tell me a little bit more about that.
Sure. So, AI does a great job of pulling things together.
Mm-hmm.
However, as we all know, it's one of its tenets is really to please us. And so in an effort to please us, it can make stuff up, it can give erroneous information. And then just sometimes it just goes off the rails, so when I use it within my own expertise so that I always have a cross check of, is this valid? Is this accurate based on my experience? And to me, that 80-20 is also the gap within which, going back to your topic, Kellan, within which people who are experts in their field can really rely, because it is not at this point, AI isn't something we can depend on as we can a subject matter expert, somebody who truly understands whatever that field is or discipline or topic. That's not where it is right now. It may be later, But to me, that's where that gap is that I take solace in, because I think that's where true coaching comes. That and the difference between information and transformation. Those two
So we'll
things
talk more
are
about
very
that
different.
later. Yeah, that's another place to go. Matt, I want to give you a chance now to jump in and tell me how you use it and whatever makes sense there.
Sure. So I think one thing that we can perhaps make a distinction on here is the difference between coaching and consulting. Okay, because I think we may broadly lump those two together, but they serve ultimately different roles. And I think each one of those will use AI just like they use tools differently depending on what the applications are. When I think of consulting, that is perhaps strategic business advising, where you're imparting certain types of knowledge and experience to someone to achieve a goal. Whereas coaching, it's more of you're working with them to help them develop. And Lycia used the word transformation here just a minute ago. You're helping them transform into some version of themselves that may not be known by either party at the onset. So there's a little bit of a difference, and I think they'll probably approach the use of AI just like they'll approach the use of tools slightly differently. But specifically for your question, I use AI in a variety of methods, and I like the idea of saying that this is an assistant that can assist me in tasks where it can do things either quicker or better or without the cognitive drain for me that I could do myself. In most cases, I've got an exception here. I'll show you in a second that I could do myself, but I don't want to because I can go much faster without it. So, for example, the how do we used to do research 50 years ago? It was going to a library, right, and searching things and maybe doing interviews with people directly and trying to get them on the phone, looking up their names in the phone book, et cetera. So there was a lot of very slow things. Then we moved in this situation of the internet where we can type things into Google and Google will provide information. Most AI is now integrated into the modern search engines, so when you type in Google, you're getting AI helping you there as well. So whether you type it into ChatGPT or Claude or Google itself, it's using some aspect of AI in the research there. So that's one way that we use it. But I think specifically for me, the way I use it the most right now is on writing, where it will help me edit and help me make changes on things much faster than I can type them. And I mean, even a pretty fast typer. So whenever I'm using it, I use it in voice mode where I'm talking to it and I can talk. I'm from the Midwest, so I can talk pretty fast. And I talk to it and it can iterate a lot quicker with the things I'm asking it to do. So a lot of things on the iteration with whether that's in documents, whether that's in content for social media, etc. That's how I use it a lot. And I also use it as a graphic designer. And this is the area where it is better than me. I can envision what I want from a product a lot easier than I can make it in Canva or PowerPoint or Harvard Graphics or whatever. So I can describe what I want to see and have it iterate on the drawing a lot quicker and a lot actually more with higher quality than I can, because I'm the worst artist ever. So those are a lot of the ways I'm using it. I think one more thing that is an interesting aside on that is when you think of a business, whether it's coaching or strategic advising or whatever, having someone where you can bounce the ideas off of with zero aspect of them judging you is a very, very useful tool, right? It's hard for us to have that sort of interaction from a human. We will show up differently for a human than we will in front of the computer. That's just a fact. It's not better, it's not worse, but it is different. But you can tell things to the computer, you can tell things to the AI about, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I need help with this, and basically use it as a way for you to talk yourself through something. It's like a really, really good friend that wouldn't be judging you, but can also forget exactly what you said, at a moment's notice, so they don't think the worst of you. That is a really useful tool. I've used it for myself. And for example, like I was, during the Christmas break, I was struggling with some things about how to set up this one facet of my business. And I had been burned by some advisors in the past that charged a lot of money and produced very little. And I was like, trying to figure out, well, how do we really get to the zen of like what we're trying to do to help these help our customers, and is this going to work and so forth. So just hours of just pouring myself out into that and really getting the feedback back in a way that no one's going to judge me. No one's going to think, wow, Matt looks like he's got it all together. I thought Dr. Markel always knew everything. No, he doesn't. He's human like us. Well, then no one's going to judge you with that. And that's that I found to be very, very therapeutic. So that's probably one. Now we don't do that every day, but that is one that we're an area where I personally used it in the business.
Cool. So I like that, and thank you both for sharing that. I think you're both right. You said something, Matt, that I want to hone in on. You said there's slight difference between coaching and consulting, and I think that difference is as wide as the Grand Canyon. In and I've been a consultant. I was a consultant for 12 years in a very contentious bunch of angry people, many billions of dollars at stake situation. And as a consultant expert, you're paid a lot of money and you friggin' better know the answer. Like, you're supposed to come in and know stuff. At least that's how it was in the work that I did. And as a coach, that isn't part of the skill set to know the answer. It is the discovery process that makes it valuable.
Yeah, just I agree. There's a substantial difference between them. Sometimes the lines get blurred, especially if you're doing advising or consulting, and the CEO has personality issues that you need to address before the company can move on. Then the lines get blurred a little bit.
Absolutely.
But I think that just the one difference I would say is, like, yes, as a consultant, you're expected to know things, but you're also supposed to deliver results in the client, on some aspect of a timetable, and that timetable is kind of pre-negotiated. That's usually not a most coaches, like, I'm going to do this for you, and it's going to take X number of months. It might take X months to get through your program, but the results are a little bit more loosey goosey on what that's going to give you. Coaches are supposed to know things too, but they're supposed to know how to get you on the path, as opposed to how to get you to, okay, we need to turn this around. We need to be profitable by this quarter. We need to have free cash flow of whatever metrics. So,
yeah, agreed, 100%. So great answers. Lisa, or maybe either one of you, I don't care. Some people have this, like you described something, Matt, that I've done also. Right now I'm not doing it, but I can talk really fast. And I use the chat the same way you do, especially when I was writing the book. I'm preparing a concert that I'm doing on the 18th, and I'm going to invite both of you to it. It'll be a Zoom concert. It's got some music and stories and stuff. And I put the lyrics into the chat and told the stories and, talked to it and asked it to give me some, stuff to say in between songs and all that kind of stuff. And did it in the way you described, sort of just talking to it. And what I really appreciate about it is it's, I could say, no, forget that. Do it this order, and I don't have to stop or do any of it. And it untangles it all really well. And I hear lots of people talking about hallucinations and all these mistakes that it makes. And I don't know if it's because how I'm using it is in a particular way, or because I've put literally 4.5 million words into the threads that I have with it. I don't find that. I find that it's 95 or 97.3 in terms of understanding what I meant and creating for me accurately. So I guess I'm interested in what are the problems that you see, the hallucinations or the difficulty or the craziness that you see? Because when you described its ability to talk you through something, that's the function, or at least one of the functions of coaching. And so when I say that sort of lower and mid tier of what passed for coaching is going to be gone, that's an example of what I'm talking about. So tell me some about what are the problems that you've seen?
So I think the hallucination gets into areas that are maybe slightly different than the RAG case that you're talking about there. So I think what you've done is you've created a retrieval augmentation generation system that basically you put in a lot of stuff and that's tokenized. Your input phrases are tokenized. Does a probabilistic matching of those, and those go into like the standard LLM, right? That's kind of like probably the way that most people when they make their own custom thing, that's actually what they're doing is they're loading in documents and instructions into making a custom LLM in Claude or ChatGPT or whatever. And that because that is probabilistic in its matching, but will do a matching, there is less of a see how do I not go completely off the rails geeking it up here. Um, there's not a good way to provide what we call confidence intervals or confidence estimation on the quality of the answer. You are assessing that basic on like, hey, I've told it all these things that I like to say, and now it's using those, and that sort of sounds like me, and you're assessing that quality. But when it's more factual based, then and it's making an assignment on that where there is more of a right or wrong answer, then it can get it wrong, and it is struggling currently with the ability to accurately say, "Hey, I am not very sure about this." And that is one of the differences between the AI and a human coach that I think we will continue to see to give the humans an advantage. There's a lot of advantages for the AI based, either assistants or tools or whatever. But for the humans, I think number one is a good human will confidently say, you know, I don't know. I need to do a little bit more research on that. Or I know this, I've had experience with this, but I'm not sure if that's entirely applicable to this situation. And a good coach or good consultant, either, or a good friend, whatever, will provide that level of confidence on their answers to you. We don't get that with the AI, and that is one of the issues. So when we talk about hallucinations is basically providing something that was a probabilistic match, but not really correct at all.
So,
You
so
know,
Alicia, what do you think about that? Where have you seen some things that are in that 20% that bother you, that drag you? It's like, whatever. What have you
Well,
seen?
I love how Matt articulated that because there, the different kinds of tasks that we can be helped by with AI. And let me just say, I do some videos and imagery. That to me is less problematic because we all have a sense of accuracy. Like if we see, an image of a person with six fingers, even if we're not a graphic artist, we'll be able to say, what are you doing with those six fingers? Like, stop. Where it gets tricky is actually in the simpler levels, which is the text-based things, when we aren't the subject matter experts. So here's a case in point to answer your question, Kellan. I was doing some research for the curriculum for Blue University, and I really wanted to extend some additional resources for students along a particular topic if they were interested in diving deeper. And so I asked Chat, and I was using Chat, and keep in mind, I have multiple custom GPTs. So this isn't just me kind of throwing it at Chat in a kind of a new chat. This is a lot of custom prompts and stuff like that. But I asked it, like, give me 3 different references. And it did. And the links were broken, and the references it cited were not actual references that were accurate on the internet. So then my response was, only give me links that work for the general public and that are not broken. Did it again, still broken. So that's kind of a very specific example that just kind of shows what I'm talking about. If I had just assumed it was correct, I could have put those links into a book or, whatever, some ancillary materials, and they would have been inaccurate. And
So,
I'll just say one more thing. The
no,
issue
please do.
that concerns me, I mean, I love AI. I'm a real proponent of using it, but using it intelligently. But the thing that does concern me is that a lot of people, because it sounds so polished, they are seduced by the polished quality of the response as opposed to the accuracy and quality of the content or the message or the so to me that's really where the rubber meets the road on this, because if somebody isn't a subject matter expert, they don't know what's accurate, and it all sounds so good. It all sounds so polished.
You know, that strikes me as not a small thing. That's a catastrophic failure, as far as I'm concerned. For anything to come back with things that simply aren't there or don't work. And I, the sky isn't falling, and I don't mean that. But it does absolutely illustrate, and that kind of failure could go across many things in terms of someone using it. I'm in the when you said six, Matt, you're dying, you're exploding. Finish.
Well, no, I think that, but that's because we are still nascent in our ability to understand the relationship between us and the computer on this, or us and the AI, right? Kellan, if you and I are having a conversation and I tell you something about finance, or I tell you something about engineering, the things that I'm, either a world-class expert in or pretty darn good in, then you'll pretty much trust me, right? If I tell you something about I don't know, about bobsledding or about Taylor Swift, and I sound very authoritative in that, you're probably going to say like, Matt is probably not an expert on Taylor Swift. By the way, my wife is. You should ask her. But for me, I'm like, I'm not. No, I don't know. But I look the same. I'm, whatever level of good looks I've got, they're the same whether I'm talking about radar or engineering or defense or self-driving cars or any of the things that I'm really good at, and whether I'm talking about Taylor Swift. So we haven't yet learned, because again, the relationship is nascent. We haven't yet learned how to trust, how to not trust, basically the outputs of a conversation we have with AI, like we have with humans.
And I want to make two observations. One's funny, and then one's about what you just said. I have a friend who uses a lot of AI tools in creating paintings, and it did create a picture of someone playing a saxophone that had 6 fingers. Just so that you know, that was so funny when you said that. I thought, oh yeah, I've seen that.
It was on the cover of Vogue recently, I believe. Wasn't there a? I want to say it was Ariana Grande was on the cover of, and I want to say it was Vogue. I saw this because I'm in some of the LinkedIn groups I'm in. We're very much into AI and AI regulation and AI secondary and tertiary effects on the environment and so forth. And they basically posted one which has like some AI thing of Ariana Grande with like six fingers. Yesterday, my wife, there's a lot of things going on. We're taping this at the beginning of February. There's a big thing going on social right now about how you can make an AI sort of version of yourself, which kind of has like remember like when you used to go to like a carnival or something like that, they're the guy doing the caricatures of you.
Yeah.
And they put some of the stuff around you, like, are you into music? Are you into sports or finance, whatever? And they put some of those things in the background. Well, those are very popular. Well, they did one of my wife and 2 of their friends at the gym after a workout. And the original picture had one of the friends had her arm around my wife. They all kind of like were arms around each other, and was doing like the peace up sign. And my wife had her hand up there too, but they were separated by this much. The AI merged them, and it looked like my wife had 6 fingers. She had a normal hand and these 2 fingers popping up as well. So we're still seeing things like that. So the 6 fingers is like an easy tell, but there's other things as well that are,
Sure.
a little bit less on the just ridiculous humor side.
So that drives me back to what I said. You gave a very articulate and specific example of people talking about their area of expertise and being believable, and then talking about other things that are not related, and us as the receiver having the good sense and or spidey sense to question the viability because they're not an expert. But we don't do that because our whole world is full of musicians and sports figures that are busy opining on world affairs and politics and everything else about which they know exactly jack. and yet are accepted as authoritative and, yeah, that's what we ought to do. So I question the ability of humans to effectively differentiate between areas of expertise and wild ass opinions.
Yeah, there's definitely we always are subject to the halo effect, right? Which
Yeah,
is
that's what I was
so
thinking.
that's we always fall prey to that, right? But I think in general we have a pretty good. And I like how you said the spidey sense of it.
We
The
do. We do. And we ought to know it and stuff. But I just noticed that. And that's as far as I'm going to go on social commentary right now. But all right. So let's get into a couple of other things because I want us to cover some other things. What um, in terms of that ability of a coach to create the space needed for a person to change, to see what needs to happen, to see a new possibility and change. Lots of what passes for coaching today is formulaic. And in the process of writing the book, I did an analysis of 11 different existing coaching methodologies. And I asked, how good is it? I asked in the research, and this was using the AI tools, how good is this method at achieving its results? And obviously, it's going to go look for whatever it looks for and give an opinion. But it gave me a quite detailed analysis that, as I read it, felt accurate in terms of what I know about each of these systems. And then I asked it how vulnerable it is to AI and its advances. And, you know, AI doesn't even know its own course of development, but watching it over the 6 months, I saw staggering growth, doubled and doubled again. And so made some projections on that, recognizing that it might be 451 degrees next Friday. But doing that and ask it for all that, and the results were frightening in terms of, it makes me ask the question, okay, what is left? If AI can write better, faster, research more, give you frameworks, tools, prompts, accountability questions, call you out on pattern deviation, and all those kinds of things that it does really well, what do you think is left for the truth of the essence of what coaching is, which is causing people to have a new insight, make long-term sustainable behavioral change, to use the Danism? What do you think is left?
Well, from my point of view, the most important thing.
Good. What is it? Talk about it.
To me, I look at coaching. I love us kind of identifying consulting, coaching. There's another angle of this, another layer of this that for me is brought into the conversation, which is therapy. So a lot of coaches mistake themselves as therapists. I am both a licensed therapist as well as a coach and a consultant. And why I bring that into this conversation is because there's four, from my point of view, there's four different levels of consciousness and levels of transformation. There's the behavioral, physical, behavioral, mental, emotional, and then the transcendent, some people would call it spiritual, the kind of otherness of it. To me, that fourth level can be simulated, but it is not replaced by humans who have a level of consciousness and who can facilitate deeper levels of transformation. So certainly on the behavioral level, on even the mental level, there may be equivalencies here. I would say, though, that the ability to facilitate and to create bespoke responses based on what is happening in that moment, the energetics that are happening in that moment, the relationship between the coach and their client, whether it's single or group, that transcends. It's a very different level of the game, and I don't see that being replaced. I don't have a concern about this whole topic for myself or for those who are really who are at their top in their game. I don't see that. Where I see it is really people who are maybe at the beginning of their coaching career, who haven't created that level of fluency and facility, and more importantly for the general public who doesn't even know that that's a possibility. And so they're this area of transformation is one that has a lot of misunderstanding in it, and a lot of hype from my point of view. So
I agree with that. So what do you think's left, Matt?
So I think just a couple observations before we kind of jump into this. One, many coaches that are coaching today really don't have the expertise to truly be a coach. And I think that that's important that we recognize that. I think Lucia, you were hinting at that towards the end of your answer there. That if they're early in their journey on that, most likely they're not qualified. And I've seen many people that think that because they had a job for 18 months and didn't really like it, but now they want to be a coach because they've seen other people be successful at that they're going to be a coach and they're going to be a good one. And they just need to get a few clients, set up a funnel, do some ads on Meta, and they're going to be making $10,000 a month in their pajamas, something along the lines like that.
And I'm still seeing ads on Meta specifically with some dude in a beach chair and a laptop with the ad saying, make a good life, make a difference in people, and make a living being a life coach. So I'm still seeing that nonsense floating around.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's by the way, that's why that sort of just come on, that sort of feeling that we get from that. That's why I built the Antipreneur whole concept was like, no, that's some moron who's trying to sell you on something so he can hopefully be able to take a vacation this year. Don't fall prey to it. But let's get back to your question. Then the 500, 600 years ago or so, the concept of having books and having books be able to be proliferated just didn't exist, right? Before the advent of the printing press, before the advent of affordable paper, before just the proliferation of the ability even to read. So books weren't as we didn't have books like they are today. We all have these real books behind me, and I'm a prolific reader, and I think both of you are as well. But books didn't solve the problem, right? YouTube videos, very, very cool. And I've now found myself, if I want to learn how to do something, I had to fix a lock on my door recently. I'd looked it up on YouTube and I watched videos and I did everything. And surprised, except for this one little part that was broken and I couldn't actually fix, I would have fixed the lock on my door because of watching YouTube videos. But they don't solve the ultimate problem, because what people want is they don't just want the information, they want somebody to do that with them. Full stop. And that is going to be the part that remains, is those that can actually effectively do it with someone, with the experience, with the lived experience that provides the context and the ability to articulate things well and articulate things in a variety of manners to connect with the client. That will be what remains, because people want someone to go down that journey with them, someone who's qualified, someone who can guide them, and someone they can look to for advice and inspiration and see in their eyes that, yes, they understand me, they get me, and they have my best interests at heart.
All right. So I'm going to just love that. And I couldn't have planted a stooge, not a stooge, but a shill in the audience to say all the right things that both of you have done. And because what I've said in
did he just call us a stooge and a shill? What is this show?
Honestly, I think that was the 80-20 issue. I think that was
plant
just like
in the audience.
It was the off, like it was the Kellan bot going a little.
Well, no, I just meant a plant in the audience to say the right thing. The volunteer, right? The magician calls for volunteer, and the right person said that.
Right.
So you said a very leading thing, and that is this: the conclusion I came to after all that analysis. And in the book, I also propose a coaching model that is based specifically on what you've talked about. And I also ran it through the same analysis and everything else to see how vulnerable it came out to be, in order to validate, at least to a degree, my own thinking. It seems to me what is left, the 5%, if you will, because I said 95 will be gone. And that prediction is just that as I watch and experience coaches, I don't see very many that operate in the realm that you just described. And the way I describe it is they are the embodiment of what they teach. In other words, without even speaking, it is obvious by the energetic presence that they have the truth, which they espouse because they live that, which is the look in the eyes, the feeling, the essence, the energy. And there are so many people who talk about something, about things that they have heard or read work or help, but they have not lived the truth of those things. And to me, that's all that's left. And everything else is going to be gone. And I may be wrong, but it feels like that, both with your example of, coaching yourself through interaction and its ability to do everything that's less than that in terms of information and frameworks and questions and tools and ad infinitum, faster and better than anything. And the only thing that's left for us is the most important thing, as you said to start with, which is that the truth of the lived experience. So that's fundamentally what I came to as a conclusion. And then I also proposed a coaching process and methodology that adheres to that. So when you look at coaching and AI, what scares you, if anything?
I think that it's
or I don't know, scare. That may be the wrong word.
Well, it's one more way to have someone who's not really it's one more way to look impressive without actually being able to back up what you're talking about, right? Maybe a long time ago, if you wrote up something on a typewriter, and dressed well, you might be able to look like you know what you're doing without really knowing what you're doing, right? So AI gives the illusion of competence, gives the illusion of quality, gives the illusion of insight, without really being able to back that up. So it's just one more tool that supports that level of you could say aspiration for someone who's on the who's not very good or very early in the career, or deception if you want to be a little bit more negative about it. So it helps out with that. You can definitely sound a lot smarter with AI, but and people what's the phrase? One's born every minute. Then there's there are people that you'll be able to make some money off of that. But eventually, I don't think that's going to I don't think that's going to change the proportion of things any more than it really is. Just to clarify on that, I don't think you're going to find any more unqualified or disingenuous coaches after AI than you came up with before. I think it's going to be about the same, because the people that want to do that just now have another tool to do it.
That's I think very insightful, Matt. I don't have much concern about this because in a way it's kind of a good thing. It's kind of like Hogwarts sorting hat, like
I'm with you. I think it's going to have a big impact, and I'm grateful.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's going to happen is more and more of the true quality that we're speaking of, whatever that is defined within that discipline. For me, it's the consciousness, it's the authentic service, it's the training, it's the intelligence, it's the energy, it's the skill to be able to see somebody and really hold for their magnificence, whatever line they're doing. All of those things take a lifetime to develop, and one has to be basically devoted to that as their path if they're really going to be in that space, that higher level of space. And so this kind of instantaneous, I've read 3 books and now I'm going to hang up my shingle as a coach. That's fine, because how I see this is that we are always the teacher to those that are coming behind us in terms of their journey, and the student for those who have preceded us. And I don't mean in terms of chronology, I mean in terms of like skill and consciousness. So for those people who are at the very beginning of their journey of working with coaches, that level of coaching may suffice. I would say that Matt's explanation during Christmas of him working with AI is because Matt brought his consciousness and AI reflected it, as opposed to AI bringing the consciousness and Matt gleaning from it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like this amazing mirror kind of thing. So people are going to find wherever they are in their journey. And, for all of us, I think we're at the place in our career, in our life, that we say, yeah, well, we're really serving. We want to be part of the 5%, as you said, Kellan, and we also want to serve from that level.
So I love what you said, and I want to say, just ask a question or describe something. When I said the whole middle of all of that's going to be gone, I don't know if there's going to be, I mean, like, how do you make a living? I defined make a living as 100K just because that was an arbitrary number. But if you can't make 100K, you can't make a living, or else you better have another job or a partner that works or whatever. And because I think AI is going to be so available and so good, everybody that did something at a less than that level will be replaced by a $49 a month, bot. And Tony Robbins just released one for $99 a month. And everybody's doing it. I'm building a Coached by Kellan bot that I am, and it's full of all the stuff that I have, and I'm going to make it available to clients for in between sessions and things. But I think I see three things, and you guys can argue with me if you want, three things that I think are in the way or can be in the way of someone who is not what you described, Lisa, truly devoted to this. And one is what I call the head in the sand problem. People that are pretending it's not happening. It's not that bad. It's not that thing. Oh, I've heard this, and believe me. No, I'm not worried. I've already got that. It's a human connection. I've already got that. You're gone. Because that person who talks like that about that sort of thing, in my mind, doesn't even get what they're talking about. The second is what I call the anti-problem, and that is, imagine a casino where there's all these blackjack tables, and they're all $10 tables, and you go in to play blackjack, and all the tables are full, and they're all robots. And the only place for me or you to sit down is in the high roller room, and the ante's $10,000. And so to me, what it feels like is that the ante to do well, to truly perform in this game's gone way up, because you can't perform in that sort of mediocre way anymore. And the third thing is what you described exactly, Lisa, and that was, this is a mountain without a top. And if you're not consistently devoted to that practice because you decide to be, you're not going to be able to hold that kind of space. So I see those three things as the barriers for the transition, that people are going to have to make a choice and decide about if they want to stay in this business. And maybe I'm pessimistic, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of room for that other stuff now. I think it will, as this improves, be replaced by these apps and bots. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, because it'll get rid of a lot of the nonsense that we see.
But someone could make a business out of the apps and bots, right? And you get a good marketing, get good digital marketing set up. You do a good funnel, and instead of selling, to make $100,000, you got to sell what, like 2 $4,000 packages a month. Then you're there, right? So that's not a huge bar. I think what happens is you find people that are, this is an aside from the answer, but like, they think that that's good, that's enough. Because what they're not doing is they're not really thinking about building a business. They're trying to basically build themselves a job, and they find that their job can be $100,000. If they can make $100,000 a year, they can pay their bills. And then for that, I've got a $4,000 product, and I can sell it. I need to sell 2 a month, and I'm there. So because they're not building a business that's scalable and can operate without them. They're basically bought themselves a job. But I think that the concept of marketing out these little, Kellan bots or Tony Robbins bots or whatever, yeah, there still may be a market for that as well. It's kind of like, and there is nothing intrinsically wrong with that, right? one may decide that, hey, I don't need to have a financial planner. I'm going to read a book on finance and then kind of do it myself. Well, that's kind of the same model. You could make the comment that maybe that's sort of like socialized medicine. It's pretty cheap, at least in terms of like what you pay if you exclude your taxes. But it's usually better than nothing. And that may be adequate for many people, especially to get started and to give them the level that they want. So yeah, spending $50 a month or $100 a month on some product, maybe that's great. It's a lower price point. It's an easier path to entry, easier path to exit if you don't want to continue it. So there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. And I don't think that necessarily is going to necessarily replace coaches trying to fill that gap also, because they're going to put advertising, they're going to put marketing out there and try to fill in that gap with their own little bot.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I think that what you're talking about, Matt, actually is a really positive thing, because we have the ability for people who will never spend $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 on a high-end coach. They now have the ability to have some level of service, albeit AI bots, but still have a level of service, because I can only assume, Kellan, that you and Tony Robbins and everyone else who's doing this bot, I'm doing one myself, are going to cross-check it, right? Before they send it out, it's not going to be like, oh, I know, I just trust that this bot's going to sound like me and be as wise as me. You're going to be cross-checking that thing and making sure it's going to represent you in a fairly accurate way. So how wonderful is it that somebody who's a 5-figure person who really suddenly found out about you gets your wisdom in a way that they may never be able to reach. The other thing is scalability for the coach. Like, again, I'll use Blue University. Blue University is really based on the idea of that Dan Vega, we all know him, who's an incredible master in terms of finance and business, simply cannot coach thousands of people in his busy schedule. I mean, he doesn't even coach a couple of people right now. He's beyond that. So now we've found ways to be able to bring that kind of insight and training. And with AI, it can actually, with good prompting and good engineering, it can actually walk people through a sequence that could really serve them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it may be a form of content that is more consumable by today's market than getting a book, right? Which is the way we would have done it for a long, long time before that. It's like, hey, I got Dr. Markel's book on this, his entrepreneur book, or I got Kellan's, one of the, 75, 250 books that Kellan's written. I don't know how many you've written up to.
Come on, 23. Let's get it down.
I don't talk to you for a week and it goes up by 7.
Exactly. I think he just wrote a book while we were on the show.
He did. I saw him. I think he was off typing on it or dictating to AI. He went on mute for a second. Anyway, the how we consume information is always changing. And when I write on LinkedIn, that is a different way of writing than when I write for a journal, or if you were to write for HBR, or write for a corporate environment. It's a different way of writing because it's a different way people consume content, and how we consume things is always changing. Just as an example of that, nobody used PowerPoint in 1974. Right. We did a lot of stuff in 1974. I mean, I was really young at the time, but it's like but we accomplished great things, and we were sending people to space and all sorts of stuff without using PowerPoint at all, because we communicated differently. So how we communicate and how we communicate and consume information continues to evolve. The bot, may be a way that people are more comfortable with and more efficient with consuming information today than reading a book would have been, 10 years ago.
So we've come to the end of our time. I really want to express appreciation. It's been a very textured and rich discussion. And like always, it's completely different than others. And it would be fun. I would suggest you guys want to might want to go back and listen to some of the other Thursday episodes just to hear some of the other things that have been talked about. I don't know if you do that sort of thing, but you ought to.
Just send me the
You'll
transcript
see.
so I can put them in a bot and have it tell me what you all talked about.
Yeah, I think Matt and I are going to write a book do you have 15 minutes, spare minutes, Matt? We'll just write that book.
I've already got
All
a
right,
draft
anyway.
of it. I'll just email that to you.
All right. Anyway, Licia, thank you. Is it Licia or Licia?
Licia.
Licia. Licia?
Yes.
Licia. I want to say it right. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here with me today and sharing your heart. Matt, thank you for being here too and sharing your heart.
It was
Absolutely.
great. Super fun.
All right.
Have
I want you to
have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much.
So just you listeners, I want you to take this to heart because like the other Thursday episodes, especially if you're a coach, lots of ways to think about this, lots of opportunities. And like anything, AI is going to create a mess and a lot of opportunity. And each one of those can be used, if you choose, to create your ultimate life.
Never hold back and you'll never ask why. Open your heart and this time around.
Right here, right now. Your opportunity for massive growth is right in front of you. Every episode gives you practical tips and practices that will change everything. If you want to know more, go to KellanFluckigerMedia.com. If you want more free tools, go here, YourUltimateLife.ca. Subscribe. Share.
Stand with your heart in the sky and your feet on the ground.